So even though we've taken Jerusalem, there's still a fair way to go to Damascus. And Allenby wants to take Jericho, doesn't he? But again, he needs his right flank not just floating in the air. He needs Lawrence and the Arabs to sort of shore up his right flank.
Yes, so that as Allenby's marching further north, as the Turks are retreating, they can't retreat towards the east, and Lawrence can just, and the Arab, because I think by this point as well, am I right in thinking it's at Jerusalem that Allenby gives Lawrence thousands of camels to create an actual camel corps for the Arabs, and to almost use the Arab camels as a sweeping brush, just as the Ottoman forces disappear from retreat from Allenby's artillery fire. Yeah.
So Allenby and Lawrence obviously talk together, and Allenby tells him, "This is what I'm planning to do in the grandest sense. What do you need?" And Lawrence says, "Well, I need loads more money, and like artillery support here and there when we need it, and all sorts of things, and some armored cars, and some air cover sometimes if you got it, and all that sort of thing, and some more camels will do, because we've bought up so many camels that there's sort of a dearth of camels to buy in the local markets or bazaars, and when you can find them, they're insanely expensive. And there's part of, I think there's like a disbanded or semi-disbanded Indian camel brigade or something.
Right.
And Allenby says, "Well, you can have those." And I can't. It's like hundreds of camels.
Oh yeah, loads,
hundreds and hundreds, and a fair amount of them actually with the Indian troops to ride them and things, who are well drilled professional soldiers.
Yes.
And so this changes the dynamic quite a lot for Lawrence and for some of the Arabs. They can't believe it. They're like, we're going to be given a few hundred brand new, really healthy camels. Like, that's amazing. That's more than we could ever ask for. But yet to the high command, to Allenby, it's just almost a throwaway thing. It's like, well, we've got this crappy camel brigade not doing anything, and you use them.
Lawrence will put it to use.
Yeah, and they do. They really, really do. And so the fighting now is sort of centered around Amman, and Man. We'll put maps up again. I mean, Amman goes on to be the capital of Jordan, Transjordan.
Yes.
So that's an important city. And actually, Allenby fails at Amman, and the Arabs try and attack Man and fail. But Lawrence has what is his main set-piece conventional battle around this point. Around this point, right?
At Tafileh, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah, Tafileh.
Which involves Zaid, the youngest brother of Hussein. And this is one of those times where, when you read Seven Pillars, Lawrence is just absolutely seething at Zaid. It's like, I don't like this man anymore. Like he says, I do like him, but he's really useless, you know, and I can't, because one of the things that Zaid does is there's an actual pitched battle, isn't there? There's it's one of the few times where there is a genuine engagement at Tafileh, and Zaid and Lawrence, they pull the forces back to behind the hill. But also, on top of this, there's the Zaid had been given, what you were saying about all that money that Allenby gave to Lawrence. He gives it to Zaid to pay the men, and Zaid wastes all of this money on random village elders, like in order to like try and buy their loyalty. But it's like, this is not what it's for. Give it back. And Zaid refuses to give the money back.
Well, just before we go on to that episode, because that's after Tafileh.
Oh yes, sorry, quite right.
Mention a few things about Tafileh. So the Turks do some manoeuvres with whole divisions. The Turks decide to sort of counterattack in force after the Allies try and take Amman. And the thing to do for Lawrence and the Arabs is just retreat. The whole point of the Arab army is to not fight pitched battles. That's the whole point of them. We're not supposed to try and stand against Turkish machine gun nests and things.
No.
But for whatever reason, well, there are a few reasons, Lawrence decides, no, there's like, I think a whole division, I mean, only one division, but still, that's a lot in this war, there's a whole Turkish division pushing forward, and Lawrence decides that no, we're not just going to retreat and run away and disappear into the desert and hills. I'm going to make a stand. He doesn't need to. Doesn't need to at all. Strategically, it's probably not the best thing to do. But anyway, he decides just behind this town of Tafileh to sort of set up a full defence. And he uses the townspeople, and he uses some of the Zaid's men and some of his men. And I mean, tactically, it's on paper it would look like it's just not a good idea. You're outgunned and outnumbered by the Turks, but Lawrence is sort of fully in command. Zaid is nominally the commander, but Lawrence is actually the one conducting the battle.
Yes,
telling people where to go and where to stand and what to do at all times, running up and down the line even when bullets are whizzing overhead, all that sort of thing.
Yeah,
and they basically the short on that is that they win. They defeat this entire. I think it's a division, or it's certainly a big brigade.
Yeah, huge.
They kill like hundreds of them and capture hundreds more, and even their commander is killed. And I think they lose like a dozen men or 20 men or something in that order. So it's a great victory. I mean, Sir Basil Liddell Hart called it a victory in the purest classical tradition. He says it's up there with just some of the greatest battles of all time. It's only a small affair in the scheme of things, right? But how perfectly it was conducted. He says it's up there with some of Napoleon's greatest achievements. And
that's one of the things actually you find a lot with Lawrence's writing when he talks about whether it's the battle at Tafileh or whether it's the ambushes on the trains. You know, he always, whenever there's some sort of engagement, he always seems to very consistently remark, and we didn't lose anyone. Or we only lost one person. He always makes a point of saying how few casualties they had on their side. And it's exactly as you say, that there's often a very conscious effort that because, they need their men more than the Turks need theirs. The Turks have got men to spare, but, Lawrence knows that he has to use his forces very conservatively. And so, the fact that Tafileh comes out with such a stonking victory is really something.
Yeah, the Field Marshal Wavell said it's in the description of it in 7 Pillars of Wisdom. He says it's one of the best descriptions of a battle ever penned. And I'd probably agree with that because he describes it in quite a lot of detail. Exactly where he placed what men, when they fired and when they retreated. And there's one bit when he paces across open ground to measure, for the machine guns, to measure the range. And he's under fire from the Turks. And the bullets are whizzing round him.
No fear.
And he gets, again, sort of bullet grazes or bullet holes in his robes that just miss him. There's one point when they're behind a small wall, or like an old piece of Byzantine masonry, and everyone's got their heads down because it's been swept by Turkish machine guns. And Lawrence is still standing up, walking around. So anyway, they win that. And when news of it gets back to Cairo, he's awarded the DSO, the Distinguished Service Order, which is one below a VC, a Victoria Cross, which is the highest award for gallantry. And in fact, he is put forward for the VC,
yes,
but doesn't actually get it.
Yes, I think that was actually after the Aqaba campaign, wasn't it? But he was ineligible for it because there hadn't been another British officer there to witness it.
Right.
So,
I mean, I'm not sure, because the number of times I've read 7 Pillars of Wisdom and all the biographies I've read as well around it.
Right.
Did he not win 2 DSOs? One for Aqaba and one for this?
I think...
Either way.
Yes, I think you're right.
Either way, he's definitely DSO, and you can put that after your name, right? So, and he also gets knighted for this as well. He gets a CB, the Order of the Bath, which again is... There's knighthoods and then there's knighthoods. Like the highest knighthood is Order of the Garter, and the second one down is Order of the Bath. So again, it's just short of the Order of the Garter and just short of a VC. So it's almost like the most they could give him in a way.
And Lawrence doesn't want it.
Yeah,
because
he refuses.
Because of his moral, conundrum with how he feels about his part in all of it. He doesn't want the rewards. He doesn't want the publicity that Lowell Thomas is trying to give him. He doesn't want all the awards that the British, state are trying to put on him, because he fundamentally feels sickened and self-loathing about his part in all of this.
Absolutely. I suppose just to hammer that point home, after the war, or in 1919, I think it might be, when he's... Because you can't refuse these things. You can refuse to... you can refuse to sort of wear the medal or refuse to let people refer to you as that. But when the British state decides they're going to give you the Order of the Bath, or a Distinguished Service Order anyway, it's happened. That's it. You can only to an extent can you refuse it. So technically, he's Thomas Edward Lawrence, CB, DSO, whether he likes it or not.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so, but the story is when he meets the king, this is a bit further on, but let's just say it now.
Yeah.
He actually meets the king in person, quite a private affair as well. It's not this big ceremony in public like a lot of it is done now. He just meets the king more or less in private. And when the king pins the awards, the medals on him, Lawrence immediately takes them off and puts them back in the ceremonial box.
Yeah.
That's unheard of. That's sort of crazy. Like, you might expect the king to be extremely offended by that.
Apparently George V took it in quite good humour.
Yeah.
Although his wife certainly didn't.
Because everyone, it seems, even the king, even King George, allows Lawrence his eccentricities for whatever reason, because he's the imp of the world.
Yes.
Because he is who he is. He's
charismatic little pipsqueak.
This extraordinary pipsqueak, yeah. So usually the last thing in the world you would do is take your DSO off the moment the king has pinned it on you. That's crazy. But Lawrence does it, and the king's sort of amused, if anything. You could expect him to go mad and throw you out of his presence. But it's Lawrence, so... But that's how he felt about his awards. He was deeply, deeply distressed with what he was doing and what he was part of. Yeah. So, okay, that's something to mention. But at Tafileh, he was... that battle, people said it was sort of a masterstroke. Like, how is this guy whose background is archaeology? His background is academia. It was done as though he was an instructor from Sandhurst or something. He was done perfectly. Yeah.
Because before the war, he had obviously, like many men of his social status and his education, he had studied the military campaigns of Napoleon and Hannibal. He'd done all that rudimentary work. But the fact that he was able to just summon all this, intuitive knowledge about exactly what you were saying earlier on about, what hill is best and what side of the hill and, which river is best, just all those little things to, Well,
of course, he's extremely well read in military history, extremely well read. But there's a difference between that and being able to pull it off on the battlefield in real life.
Of course, yeah.
And get men to do what you ask. Like, so for one little bit in that battle is that he needs a bunch of Arabs to do some sort of holding position. So he needs them to sort of sit under fire for a while, returning fire for sort of 5 minutes, 10 minutes, while a bunch of other things are going on. And he needs them to do that. And just with his force of will, his force of character, his command, his actual command, he gets them to do it. Sort of a masterstroke. He funnels the Turks exactly where he wants them, and they just fall into his little trap. And it just works perfectly. And as usual, he's very sort of quite humble, although he's not really humble. But in Seven Pillars of Wisdom, he's quite humble about it. It's like, I got lucky,
It was a group effort. It was a team effort,
Right, and so it's just after this, basically after this episode, that's when Zaid runs off with money. Lawrence wants to keep going. So it's a great success to that.
Yeah.
But where the British had failed at Oman, there's still all sorts of battles to be had. And so Lawrence had given Zaid bags of gold.
Yeah.
Right? I think it was the equivalent of, 50,000?
Yeah, it was tens of thousands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of pounds sterling worth of gold. And at one point Lawrence goes up to Zaid and says, right, I need some of that gold. I've got to go pay, got to go bribe someone, got to do something with the gold. Where's the gold? And Zaid's like, and it's gone. Isn't it?
It's gone.
He's just like, it's all gone. I haven't got any. And Lawrence is like, what? That was supposed to last ages. That was like 50 grand worth of gold. What are you talking about? What do you mean? It's gone. And so he's like, I had loads of people I had to pay off that we already owed from way back when or whatever, and it's just all gone, all of it, every penny. And Lawrence is like, well, Lawrence has a bit of a breakdown at that point.
Yeah, he's like, I need it back.
He basically has a breakdown.
And Zaid says no. But then to actually, all of a sudden, that's the first time where another Arab leader has publicly said no to Lawrence, and that it shattered his authority because he's been publicly refused in such a way. And yeah, as you say, he just has a breakdown.
Yeah, a couple of different people described it as a breakdown. So first of all, straight away, in 7 Pillars of Wisdom, Lawrence says something like, I can't remember the exact words, I'm paraphrasing, but he says something like, in that moment, all my dreams for the Arab revolt died. Like, I realised that all my stratagems and dreams were screwed by Zaid here. And the bloody Arabs, sort of. This is one of the points when he just goes on a screed against Arabs a bit, doesn't he?
It's not my people.
Yeah, they're untrustworthy. Like, you can't trust them. They're money-grabbing liars. Yeah, all this stuff.
Yeah, he really goes off.
The opposite, where early in the book he's waxing lyrical about them, saying they're the greatest of people, they're the most noble spirits. And now he's like, fuck them. So what Lawrence decides to do is just quit, just leave. He's like, right, screw you guys, I'm out.
Yeah,
I've put my life on the line so many times here. So he basically just takes a camel and just rides back to Suez or Cairo.
Yeah, to Allenby to say, I'm not doing this anymore.
Just completely quits.
Yeah.
And so it's like he has something more than a crisis of confidence. He's something in his mind. Maybe he has mood swings. People said that. Maybe he's the type of person that may be mildly bipolar, we might say these days. Something like that. Or just when he's up, he's up. When he's enthusiastic about something, he's crazily enthusiastic with endless energy. When he's down and depressed, it's way down. It's just all or nothing sort of with him, isn't it?
Yeah.
So at this point, he's done. He doesn't want to do this anymore. He doesn't want to see another Arab or a camel ever again. He tried his best, and that's it.
Yeah.
So okay. So he rides. He just quits, and he rides back to British Lions. Can't remember exactly where it was. Oh, there's a really important headquarters between Suez and Cairo. Anyway, rides back there, and that's where Allenby is. And he's met by is it Wilson and Hogarth? Certainly Hogarth.
Yes.
Or Hogarth and Clayton. He's met by a couple of his senior officers who know him very well. And they've obviously heard that Lawrence of Arabia's on the way and he's in a bad state of mind and he wants to see Allenby right now. So they basically intercept him and they gently take him to breakfast. He tells them immediately, like, I'm done, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this anymore. Court-martial me, do whatever you want. I'm going back to England. They very, very gently take him to breakfast in the mess. And like one's a general and one's an admiral or something. And he's still all in his dusty, he's come straight off the desert and the camel. He's all in these dusty robes. They take him to breakfast. They very gently say, look, don't worry about the money. First of all, it's a drop in the ocean. It kind of is. We've spent hundreds of times more than that already, and we're prepared to spend loads more. Yeah, it's nothing. Like it's not nothing. It was loads of money, but still, they're like, don't sweat it. In fact, don't mention it again. Literally, don't mention it again. So there's that. So first of all, chill out. First of all, just take a breath. Secondly, we need you, Guy. Yeah, we need you out on the right flank. Allenby's got big ideas. I think that's exactly what he says. Yeah,
you're part of the grand strategy. You can't just disappear now. If you go, the whole effort goes. Yeah.
Allenby's got big plans for you. We need you. And Lawrence is still a bit like, oh, I don't know. But there's one line, Little Heart again said that Lawrence at this point preferred the harshness of obedience was better than the self-applied spur of command.
If you would like to see the full version of this premium video, please head over to lotuseaters.com and subscribe to gain full access to all of our premium content.